I'm Malcolm Nance, and this is Black Man Spy. Welcome to the extremely fast fiber optic enabled, empowered Black Man Spy, U.S. Iran. I called it dormant gas, and it's not dormant at all. There's a lot going on. It's just all in the area where there's no shooting. Uh, but we have got a lot going on day 126 of the U.S. Iran crisis, war turned crisis, sometimes war back to crisis. So, that being said, let me introduce you to my co host, Jacob Carspo, Danish intelligence officer extraordinaire, Middle East expert, and Wajeeh, the insanely gay lion, coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, we have Central European time, Eastern time, United States, Central time, United States. And he is our Saudi Arabia geopolitical and Gulf states analyst. And good morning to you guys. How are you?
All good. All good.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
It's like already 80 degrees here where I'm at. I got a fan going because I live in an ancient ass giant house. I do not have air conditioning here. Interestingly enough, on the fourth floor, the attic has air conditioning because the attic used to get up to 110 degrees in summer. Because unlike a lot of other old houses, this place we had to gut and we had to put on a new roof, and we put R21 or R30 insulation into that room. I know I carried this stuff up 4 flights of steps and patted it all in there. So there is anything that goes up is not going out of the house. Anything that comes in is not coming into the house. So it would get insanely hot, like well over 100, 110 degrees is the highest we ever recorded up there. So we installed a HVAC system for the fourth floor, which at one time in history was in fact the maid's quarters. Yeah, this house is that big. It had maid's quarters, 4 rooms that had 2 maids each. This is like a micro Downton Abbey. And, they had to live somewhere. So they lived up in the attic. That has now been turned into a private suite and an office up there. But I had to put HVAC in there. And when it goes, it goes. Costs money, costs a lot of money. But when it cools, it actually will drop air down into the house. And the third floor, which is the bedroom floor in this office, actually feels pretty good. But it is hot. Somebody says doing well in southeastern South Carolina. Southeast South Carolina, that's where my folks are from, Charleston. So, and I don't go down there this time of year. That's crazy. 95%, 100% humidity. Now we got enough of that for 300 free years of slavery. I don't go down there voluntarily. So you have to literally pay me to go to South Carolina. How are you guys doing? You guys hot? Air conditioning was invented in Buffalo. Of course, it would have to be.
In Denmark, in Denmark, we've already had 2 days of heat wave, which wouldn't mean heat wave in Saudi Arabia or in the US, because if we get plus 30 degrees Celsius, we're like, oh my God, it's so hot. So we already had 2 days of that over the weekend. Now it's nice and pleasant, 22, 21. Beautiful.
Nice. Well, somebody in Saskatoon, Alaska is saying it, or Saskatoon, Canada goes, it's super cold right now, 18 degrees Celsius. What did you say?
I was about to say that it's actually been very nice in Minnesota. We have only had 1 or 2, 3 hot days. Otherwise, it's currently thunderstorms and raining. It's cloudy. I've been very lucky so far in Minnesota.
Yeah. Somebody in Ocala, Florida says that they're having a 45 degrees Celsius heat index.
All right?
Wow. Yeah. Enjoy it. This is, the funny thing is that when I lived in Abu Dhabi, I lived all over the Middle East. But I got to be honest, Abu Dhabi was really hot. I mean, that corner of the Gulf states would get up to an easy 30. It would be 40 degrees in the daytime And then at night, when it cooled off at like midnight, 1 a.m., it would go all the way down to 35 degrees Celsius. That's 95 degrees Fahrenheit for the cool part. You left your house, you went to your car, you went into a building with massive amounts of air conditioner. I used to go to the mall near my house and just stay in the Costa Coffee and write.
What do you think they invented the outside AC?
Yeah. So
They invented it for Dubai.
outside AC, that's crazy too. But I tell you, you go in the mall, it's murderous.
I served in the north of the Basra province for a good while in summer.
Where?
And we used to have this we El Kerna. We used to have this. We used to have this competition where we would soak our uniform and hang it up, and then see how quickly it would dry.
Which if you had a finish dry.
If you had a fully soaked uniform, the record was 11 minutes to dry just on a normal clothesline.
Oh, I see. Wow. So it was straight up hot. I've been to
50 degrees and windy,
I lived in Basra for almost 10 months. And I spent a lot of time riding up there. I've been through Kurna, been to Alamar, I've been to all those areas. I thought you were going to tell me it was humid because there is a lot of humidity. That's swamps. That's the eastern side, if I'm not mistaken, of the great, southern Iraq swamps where they had the Iraqi swamp people and everything. And it was humid. And I was on,
it's just by the Garden of Eden, Malcolm. It's just by the Garden of Eden, the biblical Garden of Eden,
I've been to the Garden of Eden. I've been to both restaurants there. The one on the North Point and the one on the South Point, right? And,
I was there before they built the restaurants, when it was just roughy scruffy.
What are you talking about? Those restaurants have always been there. They just opened it up at the end of the war. I got there in June 2000. Look at us, we're big contesting it here. I got to Basra in June 2003. Yeah. When did we invade? January 2003, right? So I got there in June 2003. Is somebody having a problem with my volume? Is it too high, too low? I'm on headphones.
That's good for me.
Sounds good. So somebody may have had a problem.
It's okay.
Don't complain. I got speed. I got literal plugged into the fiber optic coming off to the fiber optic line off the telephone pole. So
I was about to tell you, your quality of the video has improved.
Well, it'll improve even better because I have coming via Amazon a HD 4K 60 FPS camera coming. So I could do OnlyFans at this point, right? I could really make some money here,
Oh my God.
Walking around the room pointing to the crazy objects that are in there, right? In 4K. So that's going to be coming here too. Way down. Malcolm, up my audio balance. It sounds pretty good. I'm on headphones, so should be good. I can see what I can do with regards to that. That being said, I see what the problem is. Phones.
Now there's no sound at all. Now that's good.
Now
it's gone.
No, it's gone. Mute and unmute.
It's gone.
Mute and unmute.
Audio
okay,
good?
Yep. Yeah, you're all good. Yep.
Okay. So that's what happens. You guys got me playing around my system. I am now on these ear pods. Before I was on the MacBook. And now next time I'm going to be on the Mac desktop with an HD camera with my Wajeeh with my interview microphone. I'm going to look like I actually run a podcast as opposed to a bunch of ex-spooks sitting around talking. All right, we've reached 1,000 of our followers. We are ready to go. Volume's better. Don't touch anything, says Dirk Favorite. Okay, I won't be touching nothing. So, all right, wow. I wrote it early on that it was dormant cast, that nothing was happening. Boy, was I wrong. I got 2 pages of notes here of all the craziness that's going on. And it's the in-between things that make up the key data points that is giving us many indicators of activity that's happening. Number one, the Doha meetings. As you know, Donald Trump announced a couple of days ago that J.D. Vance, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner representing Washington, Tel Aviv, and money. Okay, let me rephrase that. Money,
the brain
money,
trust,
and money were all
the whole
going
brain
to
trust.
the brain trust. The three stooges have appeared in Doha, Qatar, in order to meet with the Iranians for the first round of high-level technical talks, except that Iran said yesterday they weren't coming to the Doha talks. They were like, the fuck are you talking about? We didn't schedule this. You scheduled this. And as we discussed for a little bit yesterday before I got cut off, this is a very common Trump tactic. It's a very common Trump tactic for him he schedules a time, he schedules a meeting, he shows up or his lackeys show up. And then what they do is they throw you under the bus and they're meeting with themselves and declare that they have already met these goals. And now you have to come along with it. The Iranians have learned how to defeat this by just not coming. And then putting out a Lego video, which I haven't seen a good Lego video in a while. So I got to start checking. But they decided they weren't showing up. Now, here's the best part. All right, I always say that about 20 times a show, but here is the best part. The Iranians showed up, but not for what you think. The Americans are meeting over with the Qataris, having a circle jerk amongst themselves. The Iranian IRGC finance personnel showed up in Doha to have a meeting with the Qatari finance ministry about releasing their $100 billion, not $24 billion. That's been released. They want the remainder of the $100 billion of frozen assets that Qatar has access to. They aren't meeting with the Americans. They didn't come to meet with the Americans. Here's what Minister Galibaf said. Negotiations with the Americans, they're finished until we get our money. The second part I paraphrase. But negotiations with the Americans are finished until the sanctioned assets are released. So until we get our money, don't even bother talking to us. And this actually is using Trump's tactics against him. It's something Trump can understand, right? Go give me my money. Well, they are playing hardball. Yes, Jacob.
And you said it was the best part. I would say the best part is Donald Trump, just before we came online here, put out some of his Truth Social posts saying the negotiations are going really well. They're making a lot of progress in the negotiations.
You know what? That projection was so accurate. For a second, I picked up my phone to check. So, I was like, he did what? We just started the show. Of course he did. And I'm sure it'll probably happen 10 minutes after this show is over. Okay. So the negotiations in Doha are between the United States and itself, enjoying hot cups of tea, and Jared Kushner, Witkoff. Actually, I don't think J.D. Vance is there. I think it's just Whitmer and Kushner are there to try to eke some more money out for themselves. The Iranians are here to play hardball. There is one thing that I do want to talk about, that Galibaf actually pissed off the IRGC yesterday. He was doing an interview in IRIB television, which is Iranian state television, where he made the comment, maybe he was pulling a Trump, he just wasn't thinking about it, that he doesn't think Iran should have a problem buying U.S. food stuffs with their sanctioned money. The TV immediately cut the audio, right? You could almost hear Mujtaba al-Khamenei going, the fuck is wrong with you? No, not buying American food. Chinese food, yes. American food, no. So they cut Galibaf off, and then right after that, he got back online saying, "Oh yeah, we're fine. We are not going to be buying American foodstuffs." Interesting how that's playing. Next comes the Strait of Hormuz. Any commentary, by the way, on that, the Qatar relationship?
Well,
Yeah.
we know that the Iranians are in control. The Iranians came out today and said the strongest power is the ability to control the Strait of Hormuz. Them not showing up to the meeting is a power play. You're literally saying I don't care whether you're negotiating or not because you haven't met your basic MOU principles, which is control uh end the war at all fronts. Like that's the
Mhm.
biggest one. Well, you haven't ended the war at all fronts. So since you haven't ended the war at all fronts, whatever meeting you want to do is not going to work with us.
Right. hmm Very true.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Wajeeh, I have a little bullet here of J.D. Vance talking about the real purpose of this MOU, which I'm going to save for you after the Strait of Hormuz update.
Okay.
The price of oil, is it still at $67 a barrel?
I
If
have it
somebody can
pulled up
check for
right.
me. While you're doing
I
that,
got it.
only 13 ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz yesterday. I consider that a decline. It was 70 3 days ago. The IRGC, of course, put out that warning and then hit those ships. And that is back down to 13. At its peak thus far, the Strait of Hormuz has only peaked at 25% of its pre war traffic, which means nothing's moving. All this talk of the artificial deflated oil prices aren't bearing the reality of ships that aren't coming down. What do we got? Is that, can you read that? It's 60,
WTI is at 69. Brent crude is
69.
at 72. Marban is all the way at 66.
Mhm. So these are penny
Oh,
drops.
yep. Not
Penny
too
drops.
big of a
Okay.
drops, yeah.
Yeah. In case you didn't get that 69 joke, that was from the movie Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure, which you would have to be my age to appreciate that film. Keanu Reeves as a surfing doper from San Dimas, California. And he's actually pretty good at it. And that was his joke. So with regards to that, and a foreign container ship, I could not get its name watching the video. A container ship has run aground, taking the Omani shallow passageway in the Strait of Hormuz. The container ship was not fully loading. You can see from the video. I don't have the video to show it to you. Thank you. Right there in the Musunda Peninsula. It was very high out of the water, red hull. We could see the red underhull, which means that there was practically nothing in those containers. It was empty containers. Coming out, ship is riding high. It has no load. Ran aground. The best part about this is the Iranians came out to harass it in Omani waters and said, this vessel will pay a large ransom for IRGC's assistance. Should have just paid the
I love the
$2
use
million.
It would
Now,
be a
I love
shame
the
if
word.
something happened.
be a shame if
your
something happened to
your
that ship.
car has been towed. Your car has been towed. You gotta pay it off.
Yeah, the IRGC towboats come out and start towing you off to the what do you call it? The impound lot in Bandar
Yeah.
Abbas. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said Sam Demas is a long way from the beach. That was the joke in Bill and Ted's Most Excellent Adventure. Okay. So Oman is now on board. They have announced that they are on board to take part in charging a management fee for vessels that come in and out of the Strait of Hormuz. So the Iranian plan to get people to pay to come in and out of the Strait of Hormuz is now going to be the official policy of Iran and Oman. They are just working out the details. The phrase that they used was this would be a fee for management costs. The same way that there is a small fee charged in the Straits of Malacca. That's just to count your ships, have Coast Guard ready, all of those things. We said that
it's
number
more
could
or
be as
less,
high as 80 billion a year.
yeah, it's more or less the same wording as the Omani and Iranian foreign ministers used in their joint statement after their meeting Monday last week. But then the Omanis were under pressure from the Trump administration and started doing that IMO thing and saying, "Oh no, we don't want to charge, etc., etc." But back comes the Iranian pressure on Oman, and that's why they have shifted back to the Iranian position.
Yeah, well, in this circumstance, once the Omanis start charging and the Iranian for inbound and the Iranians start charging for outbound, however, it is a real multipass now. You can go both ways. Right? North and south. The Iranians are still threatening that they will not let people use the old historic route. And that way they can exercise force whenever somebody tries to misbehave, both the Omanis. The the Iranians are actually doing pretty good. Since the MOU has been signed, they have moved 50 million barrels of oil, totaling not one, not two, but $3 billion of cold, hard cash. The Iranians are the only nation in the Persian Gulf that is actually moving and selling oil. None of the other Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, even Iraq, have not even started to get up to those numbers. The Saudis and the Emiratis are relying on their bypass pipelines. So better get that moving.
And the price for the Iranian oil is now way higher than it was before the war because it was sanctioned. And the Chinese could put pressure on the Iranians to lower the price. Now, with the opening and the abolishment of all the sanctions on Iran, and also the dollar as payment, etc., the prices have gone up.
War premium, baby. That's what you got. Hey, those bridges aren't going to build themselves, right? The Iranians will say, girls' schools are not going to build themselves. And we got to beat money out of the Americans. Easiest way to beat money out of the Americans is at the American gas pump. That being said, we know I saw another analysis yesterday that the tank bottom crisis is being ignored by traders. And they say that when it comes, it is going to give a oil shock, which could be a lot steeper than we just had. It might not just jump $1, it might jump $2 to $3 per gallon when it comes. And that could come anytime between mid-July and September. That being said, J.D. Vance did an interview. I guess Ben Shapiro has been doing sickly as of late. For you guys who don't know, I debated Ben Shapiro, or had an argument on Ben Shapiro on Real Time with Bill Maher a few years ago. And I just kept looking at that kid and going, how does he, I had over 1 million social media followers at the time. Ben Shapiro is an artificially manufactured entity. He was handed when he used to call him, I'm not joking, when he started his show, he was handed $10 million and told, go create a right-wing conservative news sphere that would challenge the liberals. I mean, it'd be like somebody handing me $10 million. First off, that's just $9 million spent on classic Land Rovers. Okay. And then $1 million running this show with better advertising. But they handed him $10 million. And then by the time I was on Real Time with him, where I was on MSNBC, he had been given another $50 million by Sheldon Adelson to do what he does. And the funny thing is that it's now hemorrhaging money. They say that his, whatever his program is, that's how influential he is. I don't know. But he's taking part in the giant rift now between MAGA, as an Israel supporter, and MAGA being racist, anti-Semitic, and sexist, right, are really down on him now.
And they say he's hemorrhaging money, fired off dozens and dozens of staff. I didn't have to do nothing. I come on the show and everybody gets the information that they need. But J.D. Vance went on to save him yesterday, right? First time J.D. Vance went there on the Ben Shapiro network, sitting down in an open chair format, like between two ferns. Normally Ben Shapiro, he's behind his, it's his crazy eyebrows. I don't know if you guys ever seen it. Elmo got some crazy eyebrows, right? And they're manicured too. So he sat down with Ben Shapiro.
My fingernails are not manicured.
I'm going to tell you guys, I sat next to Ben Shapiro, literally less than a foot away from this guy. Smells great. Nails are meticulously done. And it's not because the makeup artist at Bill Meyer's awesome lady who does everything there. This guy, I work around the house. The joke is that I'm a New York Times bestselling author and a TV commentator for exactly 1 hour per day, this hour. And then I'm in the garden. I was pulling weeds yesterday out of a 1 acre garden at 30 degrees Celsius. That's my day job, right? Cleaning, manufacturing, doing things around this house. This guy's job is given tens of millions of dollars to have J.D. Vance on. But J.D. Vance feeling comfortable.
Well, you have to know something.
Wajeeh, 1 second. I'm going to get to something significant. I want you to comment on it.
What he said.
What he said yesterday is going to not shock you and me, but it's going to shock everybody who watches it. J.D. Vance came out and told the truth for 2 minutes. He said Trump told them to use the memorandum of understanding. Clear. Wajeeh, stop drinking. I don't want you spitting out onto your camera.
Okay.
Swallow. Good. All right. J.D. Vance says Trump told them to use the memorandum of understanding as an opportunity to refill our oil stocks, use the global market to get things back flowing, and then, quote, we will see what comes next. And it's being billed across the internet as the MOU is a fake negotiation pause the way the negotiations were being held just before we attacked Iraq. It is all about getting tanks filled, avoiding tank bottom. Then Trump has a meeting yesterday with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Pete Hegseth, for next phase operations against Iran. And the meeting was supposed to be about how a new war campaign would play out in the run-up or post-run-up to the election. But for now, he is, quote, unquote, sticking to diplomacy. So what we got yesterday, Wajeeh, now you can comment, J.D. Vance told the truth. This MOU is bullshit. I believe him.
Yeah.
I believe him because he said it on Ben Shapiro's show because he was trying to talk to Israel.
Well, it makes absolute sense. Trump, when he was at the G7, he openly, or at the NATO side, I forgot, NATO summit or G7, he openly said, we sitting down with the Iranians because the economy is not doing so good. So we have to get to that. Like, he said it outright. Trump came out and said to the world that we are negotiating with the Iranians because we're hurting economically. So when J.D. Vance comes out and adds another fact, we're not only sitting down and negotiating because we're hurting economically, but once we have some sort of breakthrough with our economic situation, the war resumes.
Right.
So the Trump administration essentially is aligned with Netanyahu's far-right regime. They're both on the same page about escalating the situation. What's happening in Lebanon is exactly what they want going on. This is not going to end in the next few months. This is the thing that we have been saying. These are maximalist people who want to put their own interests first. We found out yesterday that Trump has traded 5,000 times in this administration.
Of course he has. Of course he has. This is a money making operation. This is not foreign policy. It is not foreign policy. It is a money making operation and a grift of the highest order, using the tools of U.S. and instruments of U.S. power and the lives of U.S. servicemen. He doesn't care about those 13 people who were killed and the two others, three now that have died in combat or died in non-combat operations.
And this is also why, as we discussed yesterday, Wajeeh, the Iranians know all this. You know, you can say a lot of things about the Iranians, but they are not dumb. And they have no confidence whatsoever in Donald Trump or J.D. Vance or Steve Witkoff or Jared Kushner. And that's why they're holding on to their hard bargaining chips, which is the Strait of Hormuz, which is the highly enriched uranium, etc., etc. So they're not going to move an inch. They want, just like Trump, to get as much money out of this while the MOU is still, you know, in some kind of being kept alive, although nothing is progressing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, go ahead.
I was just going to say the Iranians are also using the MOU because they already know the opponents that they have here. They go, hey, these two grifting guys, that when they sit down in a room in Doha, they're not talking to us, they're talking to the Qataris. Right? They're looking for money. You know, Jared Kushner got bailed out to the tune of, what was it, $6 billion or $3 billion, which bailed out his 666 Park Avenue, which was going under. So he owes them. They gave Trump a $400 million airplane. He owes them. So I can almost see the Iranians sitting on one side of the table going, we should just ask whatever the fuck we want because it's irrelevant to the Americans. They're going to give it to us. They're going to give it to us, but they are really negotiating for what they want out of the Arabs.
Yeah.
You have to remember the Iranians have hired multiple therapists, multiple psychiatrists to go over all of their deals, to go over all their messaging so they can target, and particularly they also understand that if you mentioned Jacob, they don't want to give a Trump an inch. Well, they understand. They have analyzed Trump. Anyone that gives the Trump an inch, Trump makes that a mile. So for some reason, that like everyone that knows Trump, if you give him 1 inch, he always takes advantage of the situation and continues forward. So they know, no, we ain't giving you nothing. Now, as long as we got the upper hand, we are not giving you nothing. That's why we have control over the Strait of Hormuz. That's why even though we and Oman are agreeing on having joint venture over this strait, but right now, as we are negotiating with the United States, you are not in control of the situation. We say who passes and who doesn't. We say how many ships passes, and that exactly gives them the upper hand that they need to sit down on the table. One thing I wanted to mention about Ben Shapiro, he buys his followers and subscribers, by the way. They did.
You hand me $50 million, I'll be buying some too.
Man, the math wasn't adding up about Ben Shapiro's followers and comments and reactions. He has too many followers and that's cheating his investors and cheating the advertisers that he's taking. So I mean, and cheating the people that are watching him.
Yeah, Habibi, hello, Wally. Okay.
Hello.
That's bullshit. It doesn't matter to these people, right? It doesn't matter to these people. These guys are out there. When we say that they're in Doha and Tehran, selling camels, these guys are generating AI camels and swearing that they're the best camel salesman in the world. It's all bullshit and lies with them. And this is why intelligence professionals and geopolitical professionals like us, we just laugh at them because they're not real people. Real money is being traded here, though. Okay, and this is why the Iranians are getting everything they want. You mentioned the Omanis. Here's why the Omanis are accepting the Strait of Hormuz control scheme now. Because the philosophy pushed by Trump, and now the Iranians or the Omanis see that it works for the Iranians is, fuck you, I got mine, I'm getting mine. Fuck you if you don't get yours. The Omanis went from, no, we will not do this in February to, yeah, let's do this. Let's get our money. Let's get $40 billion a year.
And the Omanis also know that the Trump administration aren't reliable allies.
No.
So they read the map and they say, well, Iran is here to stay. And we don't know what the hell Donald Trump is going to do. So we need to accommodate our large next door neighbor. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Trump is the presidential tool to end all of America's diplomatic relations. He has destroyed the bridges between the United States and the Gulf states. He destroyed the bridges between the United States and Europe. Yeah, and a few months he even destroyed the bridges that was built for under 5 different U.S. presidential administrations, including his own. He destroyed the Indian American relations. He is literally taking it like he's looking who's next. Who am I going to? Who's next? Who am I going to slap next?
Yeah.
This is exactly what he's doing.
Wajeeh, you and that common sense, you're going to have to stop introducing that into the show, right? You keep looking at him like he's going to be, oh, he did something against normal things. His job is to screw up normalcy. It's to screw it up. He loves this. They fired 1,000 State Department diplomats who were stationed around the world this year. 25% of, no, wait, half of all embassies in the Middle East, North Africa have no ambassador because Trump, his mouth in Truth Social is the ambassador, So just utterly amazing that anybody would even consider that as normal. Yes, it will go to normal in the previous world where people will interpret for him. But if he really is serious with you, he sends Witkoff and Kushner because they're bag men. Bag men are there to negotiate the money you're paying the boss, not the end deal. That's what it really is all about. Boy. Well,
the interesting part here also is the row that's going on between the Trump administration and Saudi Arabia now, because that is a real row, and that will have ramifications for a long time to come. Both with the American bases in Saudi Arabia and also financially.
I want to discuss that tomorrow when we do this show about the Wall Street Journal's reporting on how the U.S. and Saudi Arabia had a big rift and weren't going to allow the U.S. to do this war until Iran struck them. And then Saudis are like, okay, I guess we got to go with the infrastructure we've been preparing for 40 years. But that doesn't mean it's going to be that way in the future. I think the Saudis are going to start saying, hey, we got enough missiles, we got enough interceptors. We don't need you guys around. Yeah.
Subject. Trump, it was only a few months ago. When Trump stood in front of a conference full of large Saudi investors and made fun of the Saudi crown prince in front of everyone.
Yeah, but you could almost see MBS go, let it slide. Let it slide.
Oh, no. Not and then a few days after, the crown prince was asking Trump to send more missiles or do something about the drones and the missiles that are coming from Iran. And he didn't. So MBS went to Ukraine and Trump sent Rubio immediately to Saudi Arabia to say, well, I'm
Stop working with
disappointed
the
in you.
Ukrainians.
Why are you going to the Ukrainians? Crown
Right.
Prince said, you couldn't protect my ass. I had to go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that works out for them. But I think there's a new future Gulf alliance here that will replace the United States. They can't afford
Yeah,
it, to be quite honest. I mean, if Qatar's
Absolutely.
losing $2 trillion in a matter of months, nobody thought that that would be it. They have no integrated defense, so they'll lose it again in the future. And Iran
yeah.
didn't even use all of its full force of its armed forces, thus thousands of anti-ship missiles, drones, cruise missiles, and they didn't even land any commandos there. So I'm really disappointed. That's not true. Commandos landed in Bubiyan Island. They got killed, but they did land in Kuwait. All right, next, as if we didn't have enough to worry about, let's talk about the IDF in Lebanon. Yesterday, the Israeli Defense Forces destroyed a 200-meter long tunnel in the town of Majdal Zaun. And I watched the video, and it looks like they blew up half of the town of Majdal Zaun. The tunnel went through the downtown area, or the middle of the village and everything, and the Israelis used an enormous amount of explosives in it. They didn't cap it. They put down easily, it must have been a ton or more of explosives in there, and they blew up that place. The Israelis said, "Oh, that was a defensive operation," which it was, and but needless to say, Hezbollah is pissed off about it. Speaking of that, Admiral Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command, Navy Admiral Cooper, met President Aoun and General Rudolph Heikel in Beirut yesterday. It almost looks like Central Command is preparing for that mission we talked about of bringing on board the SFAB, right? What we call the Security Forces Assistance Brigade. That's where the United States send over hundreds or 1,000 troops, and they rapidly train your forces up to use armor, mechanized infantry, evaluate you, get you new equipment, new body armor, helmets, rifles, whatever you want. I know this because the same damn thing happened when I was 20 years old in Beirut in 1983. We did the exact same thing. The Lebanese army, because it is made up of limited number of people from multiple confessions, is not as integrated as we would like it to be. It is not as, how can I put it? They won't all fight for Lebanon if it comes down to a civil war, for example. The armor that they have is archaic. Okay, they use M60A1 tanks. There's a VFW down the road from me that has an M60A1 tank out front as a monument. Same thing with the M48 Patton. There is a VFW in Albany that has an M48 Patton tank on the front of it as a memorial. Okay, I mean, they use ancient weaponry. They do not have the capacity to disarm Hezbollah. And I think Trump and his crazy minions and Pete Hegseth and General Kane are all in on Central Command, the Lebanese army becoming an extension of Central Command and getting ready to take on Hezbollah. It would be a slaughter, okay? I've seen Hezbollah fight in the streets, all right? They are great urban warfare fighters because they believe in what they're fighting. If you fight for the Lebanese armed forces, right now, you're not fighting for Lebanon. You're fighting for
You're fighting for
Washington
salary.
and Tel Aviv. You're fighting for, well, if you take a salary, you can get your salary paid, which is probably another thing Central Command is going to do for them, right? We always see these guys have to get paid. No one's going to be giving them a 100% increase in salary. That would get a lot of guys on board. But it would be riddled with Hezbollah spies, right? And Iranians who will be paying them off. So I think it's fun that we're going there and assisting, but I don't know if this will pay off.
It's the equivalent of how quickly the Iraqi armed forces folded when ISIL
ISIS.
started to attack, and when the Shia militia came roaring in, it's pretty much
Right.
the same story.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And we know there were only two. I got to tell you something about that war. When ISIS attacked and the Iraqi army folded, there were two forces that didn't, and that's because they essentially weren't really Iraqi forces. Okay, for years, for almost 10 years, they had been American forces, and that was Iraqi police SWAT and the Iraqi special forces. And those guys, I see those guys, and I'm like, guys are essentially Americans. And, they got good training and all that. And for us to go and think that we're going to go do that with the Lebanese armed forces, that's not going to happen. But Iraq did stand up in the end to fight ISIS. Without us, the Iraqis learned how to fight. Right? Everything before that was sunshine.
Because we financed the Shia militia being enrolled into the PMF,
right.
and they were the ones that ousted ISIS from this traditional Sunni area.
All they had in them was Ya Hussein and Allahu Akbar, and that was motivation enough for them to go up and kill ISIS. So that being said, one last thing, and we're going to go to questions. Yes, Wajeeh.
There's few things to take into consideration when we're looking at Iraq. The government itself and the people of Iraq and the Shia in particular were all targets of ISIS, and that would have easily united the military with funding from the United States. You also need to take into big consideration what is happening in Lebanon. Lebanon, when the United States or UAE or Qatar or Saudi Arabia send funds, they're sending 200, 300, 400 million dollars for every few years. Meanwhile, you have Iran that has an annual budget that they're sending to Hezbollah of $1 billion a year. How do you expect a military that is way underfunded, that gets few $100 million every few years, to fight back a militia that is funded an annual $1 billion from Iran?
But a highly
Math doesn't match
militia.
up.
A highly motivated, religiously motivated militia.
Yeah.
Right? Hezbollah, they believe that it's not about Hezbollah, right? The party of God. It's their belief that they, as a Shia minority, must be ready. To be honest, they have the mindset of the Israelis. And they have the fighting spirit of the Israelis. I ever want to hear the Israelis say that, oh, they're nothing like us. Yeah, they are. They're a lot like you. They are motivated on the belief that anything other than fighting means extinction. And that's a combat multiplier. Real quick, I'm going to go to the questions. I have to go through my mobile, so don't mind me if I'm eating. But as long as we're here, if you haven't seen the thread we have on the Summer Sunshine campaign, raising money for trucks for Ukraine, it's one of the threads that we have there where you get the Black Man Spy patch. I don't even have any control over that patch. They're being made in Ukraine and shipped out to the United States. And you can still donate to that. We're only 2,000 euros away from our goal. So I'm going to key that back up in the chat. You guys can go see that. So now let me bring up my Substack chat. Oh, by the way, I have one last article that I want to bring up. So now we're not going to be dissing on the Israelis all day. Now it's time to hammer the Lebanese. There was a journalist called Maria Malouf who was arrested by the Lebanese government in 2021 for an interview that she did, where all she did was do an interview directly with Israeli television. They have just sentenced her to 15 years in prison. For what? Doing an interview with Israeli television. So now I'm hearing all this talk about how Lebanon's our bestie and that they are working closely with Israel and the United States. Maybe they might want to do something about letting this lady go, right? This is the stupidest thing. They're almost schizophrenic in the way they're doing. Let me tell you, if she goes and asks for an interview with Ivanka Trump, she'll be out in a day. It's as simple as that. So now let's go to questions. But I find that ridiculous. It is not against the law to speak to news media organizations of the opposite side. Okay. Oof. Here we are. Whoop, that's day 125. There we are. Questions. Day 126. Wow, there's a lot of comments and a lot of questions. And there are people showing me their coffee cups. A lot of people showing me their coffee cups. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Okay. Let me
We
see if I can
didn't
find
do
some
sell your cup today, though. That's why.
I know. Well, we saw them. We saw it. So I got my black. I have coffee and iced drinks at the same time because I need it. Okay. Somebody says, what is the significance of the ever lovely hit the day before being Taiwanese-owned Singapore registry? It was just to send a message to all the other ships, and that's why ships aren't going through the Southern Strait of Hormuz. Tell you the truth, that container ship going ashore today sort of ruined it for everybody now. Now they show, oh, the problem isn't the Iranians, it's navigation hazards. And now you've got a hole in the bottom of your ship that has to be refloated and taken to Karachi, Pakistan. And the repairs are definitely going to cost more than $2 million. Pay up. That's what the Iranians are saying. Nice cup there, Rare Lightmare. What does her cup say? It says, she believes she could, so she did. This is Rare. Everyone's sending me their cup pictures. That's hilarious. All right. And what is it? MBEA. I don't understand that cup. What is that? That's from Robot Bender showed his cup. So all right. You know what? I'm liking the cup thing. I should do a cup thread just for your cups so that we can get to the questions. Somebody asked that very question about the container ship running aground. What do we think about that? But in war planning, who does the analysis of economic impacts of wartime operations? Who would have done that for the Iran conflict? Central Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, the Department of Commerce, and the Department of Energy. And I'm certain none of them were consulted. I was like, let's go, dude. We got guns and planes and dudes.
And huge missiles.
And huge missiles. Yeah, you know what that means? That's CDHEXA. That's their idea. That's the Trump National Security Council. It's run by the Secretary of State, and he doesn't seem to have any clue. Okay, somebody corrected. We've corrected that. A lot of great comments in here. Missiles and misfires. Somebody calls it a movie. Missiles and misfires or the Iran incidents. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You guys are clever. I like that. But a lot of comments today, not so much. Chief, don't you think that the ballyhooed $1 million missiles versus $50 drones issue is too soon to pass a bump on road to perdition? Is a soon to be passed bump on the road to perdition. Companies like Anduril are already shipping, and others are coming online with inexpensive high volume productions, including Mesh Tactical Networks. Those companies are coming online with very expensive drones. They're not inexpensive. They're inexpensive compared to what American companies usually charge, like $200,000 or $300,000. These are not the $500 drones the Ukrainians are using, or the $3,000 interceptor drones the Ukrainians are using. They're getting their money. They wouldn't do it for less than $1 billion. Anduril got $850 million, right? For a weapon system which is not in our inventory. We shall see. Jacob, the U.S. ambassador to Denmark, is the U.S. ambassador to Denmark allowed to have a Freedom 250 celebration? If so, will any Danish diplomats attend?
Ken Howry. I haven't seen anything.
Howry.
Yeah, Ken Howry. I haven't seen anything about it here in Denmark. The trouble for Danish diplomats is, they want to keep up diplomatic courtesy. so they turn up, even if they don't like it. But I haven't seen anything on it. I'm not on the guest list after what I've said about Ken Howery, so that's too bad.
Yeah. Shane Granger from Australia says, a weird question. Weird question. Will you be able to autobiography be available to Australia Kindle? Yeah, it's going to be a worldwide release. It's going to be in multiple languages. So I'm sure we can get you an Aussie copy. Aussie. But that's next January. Hopefully, global economic catastrophe will not have struck by then. And we will be able to actually print books, put them on a ship, and actually get them around the world. That is not guaranteed.
Not through the Strait of
Yes.
Hormuz, though.
Most book publishers come through China. And as a matter of fact, that's why it takes a year to get a book actually printed from manuscript turn in. It takes a year because the three largest book publishers during COVID were in China. I think 2 went out of business. 1 has come back online. Nobody prints in the United States anymore. Nobody. That's crazy. And then here's Peter Jarrell. That's a good one. I'm lacking in my game. All right. Malcolm, I came late. If you answered this, do you think, this is from Jimmy S., do you think Trump keeps escalating because he feels embarrassed by the backlash he's getting for the MOU? Well, you did come late to it. Go back and watch the section about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance says that this is all Panama, that this is designed to refill the oil tanks to where the United States could be in a position to strike again. I believe J.D. Vance because he said it on a Trump-friendly, Israel-friendly show. And, it was one of those rare instances where it's like, oh, I'm with my bros. I'll tell the truth. Wait, what? Oh, I shouldn't have said that? Okay, thanks. It's sort of like Trump's confession that we were going to go to tank bottom.
But it's funny, the Trump loyalists, they usually say, well, Trump is, saying all these things because he doesn't want the opponents to know what's really going on. It's his superior negotiation tactics. And then J.D. Vance blows it all.
Blows it all up, yes. That man's a moron. I mean, he's a real idiot. Did you know in the Supreme Court filing about finance, it came out that J.D. Vance was going to run for Senate again. Vance for Senate 2028 was one of the examples that was used in the filings for the Supreme Court ruling on campaign finance. Oops.
Okay.
I shouldn't have done that. All right, guys. Thanks for coming today. I want to give you a few administrative notes if you're watching this on YouTube, and you will be watching it on YouTube. I'm uploading it the very second this show is done, since this show is very clear. And this is the way it's going to be from now on. I will be running this show on laptop via Ethernet or laptop via its Wi-Fi, which is much better. I don't know what's up with my iPhone 16 Pro. Maybe it's time for an iPhone 17 Plus Pro. I don't know. But thanks for coming. If you can, become a subscriber, a paid subscriber to Black Man Spy or Wajeeh or Jacob Carspo. Wajeeh is doing pretty well. Jacob, yes, sir. May I help you?
No, it's just two important in parts of information. One is I won't be in tomorrow because I'm going to Jutland. And I'm afraid you won't see me Friday or Saturday either because I have an annual bash with the old
the 4th of July. You're celebrating it? I
no, it's an annual bash the first weekend of July here in Denmark with 7 of my old mates. And you're not going to see me on screen because I won't be in a state where you want to talk to me. Or believe anything I say. So I usually try to be a reliable guy, but for the next couple of days, I won't be. So just full disclosure here, it's an annual bash the first weekend of July in the northernmost part, on the tip of Denmark, actually, up near the top, up at the top, actually.
All right, awesome.
And then tonight I have the big Ukraine show. I've dug out all the data,
Ooh.
the hard data points I could find about what's really going on inside Russia, and also the Ukrainian strike campaign in the occupied territories, not least Crimea. So that's on in a few hours.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, all of you enjoy Spook Street Drink Fest. That's what we would call that. And we will see you all tomorrow right back here. Wajeeh and I will have all the data for you. And let's hope that it's really a slow day, because it's supposed to be 100 degrees in New York City. So take care,
Oh my
everybody.
God.
I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
See ya.
It's not cooperating.
And then my finger is not pressing it right. There you go.